everyone. This is Sai back again with another episode of The Overreaction. It's time. We've been waiting for this for months, and the Overwatch League season is about to begin with a great first week of matchups. It's going to be really great. This video is going to be us talking about those matchups a little bit, and also showing you the players who I think are going to have the biggest impact on their matches. Starting with day one, we have a great day of matches ahead of us. We have a rematch of last year's championship between the Philadelphia Fusion and the London Spitfire. We all know the championship left us wanting more, but we get that rematch to start the night. It's going to be great. Should be a great match. Then the next match we have is a Boston Uprising versus New York Excelsior. The Excelsior have done nothing but improve. Boston Uprising had basically a complete retooling of their roster. So, it'll be interesting to see how they handle the New York Excelsior. And then, if you wanted some more drama, we have the LA Gladiators going up against the Seoul Dynasty. As many people know, Fisher, the former all-star main tank for the LA Gladiators, asked for a trade. He got one. He was sent to the Seoul Dynasty. So, it's going to be an interesting matchup. It'll be interesting to see how those players react. And finally, to round out the day, we have the Shanghai Dragons, the brand new Shanghai Dragons, almost a completely new roster there as well, going up against the Spark. That should be an interesting match as well, and I think it's be a good first day. So we're going to go on to the picks now, and we're going to talk about the players that will have the biggest impacts now for these first set of matches. Alright, so beginning with our first match, we have the Philadelphia Fusion going up against the London Spitfire. I have the London Spitfire beating the Philadelphia Fusion again. The London Spitfire honed the roster at the end of last season. They're just going to get better. I think they're still going to be great this season. They're still going to be one of the better teams in the league. The Philadelphia Fusion, while not being a bad team, I don't see them being as good as the London Spitfire. We'll see what happens this season, but I think the London Spitfire are definitely going to take this one. And I think Prophet's going to be the player on their team who puts in the most work. I think we're going to see some really good plays from Prophet in that match. Alright, the next match we have the Boston Uprising versus New York Excelsior. We all know about the New York Excelsior. We all know how good they were last season. They're going to continue to be good this season. They're going to beat the Boston Uprising. I think the Boston Uprising are going to struggle quite a bit this season unless we see something surprising out of their roster. And when we talk about the New York Excelsior, you have to talk about Jonak. The guy frags at that position. He's really good. Everybody knows how good Jonak is. He's going to make some big plays, as he always does, in that match. Third match of the day, we're going to see the LA Gladiators going up against the Seoul Dynasty. The Seoul Dynasty only improved their roster. They only got better. They added Fisher, which, if you watched the Seoul Dynasty last season, you know the main tank position was where they struggled the most. So I see the Seoul Dynasty taking this one. I see Fisher being the impact player on that team for this match. Him playing well, him being on that roster is only going to open things up more for the DPS to play really well, and it's going to be a good match, but I think the Seoul Dynasty are going to end up winning that one. And then, the big pick here, we have the Shanghai Dragons playing the Spark. I think the Shanghai Dragons are going to come away with their first victory in the Overwatch League. They're going to beat the Spark. I'm pulling for them. I think they're going to do it. This new roster they have is full of talent. I think Diem's going to be the one to get him there. I think we're going to see some great plays out of him, and I think it's going to be a great match. But I think the Shanghai Dragons are going to get their first win in Overwatch League on opening day of Season 2. Alright, we now move on to Day 2 of opening week. Our first match being between the Toronto Defiant and the Houston Outlaws. I think, once again, that's going to be a great match, but we'll have to see what happens. Houston Outlaws didn't seem to really do a whole lot during the offseason. I know they added Dante, which will help their DPS play, but I'm not sure what's going to happen there. We'll see what happens with that team. The Toronto Defiant, also a solid team. Once again, we'll see what happens. We'll get to my picks in just a minute. The second match of the day, the Atlanta Reign versus the Florida Mayhem. The Atlanta Reign match should be great. We're going to finally get to see Defran in an Overwatch League setting, and we get to see the new look Mayhem, who is another team who completely revamped their roster almost. So I'm interested in that match. And then we get to look at the third match of the day, which is going to be the Dallas Fuel versus San Francisco Shock. Plenty of hype going around the Dallas Fuel right now. San Francisco Shock also seem to improve in the offseason, so that'll be another good match. And then we have the Charge versus the Hunters. Two of the brand new teams going up against each other on day 2 of opening week. We'll see what happens, but I'm super psyched to see all these teams play. For sure, finally. Seems like we've been waiting long enough. So now we've seen the matchups. Let's move on to the picks. Alright, picks for day 2 are as follows. I have the Houston Outlaws winning their first match of the season against the Toronto Defiant. I see Linkser being a key to this. If Linkser is hitting his shots, he's being consistent with his picks, the Houston Outlaws should win that match. I think they're just the better team in that matchup, and I think Linkser is going to be the one to get him there. We have the new look Florida Mayhem playing in that second match. I have them beating the Atlanta Reign. I know that may sound a little crazy with how the Mayhem season went last season, but the whole new roster starting season 2, and of course they still have Saya Player, who is still a monster projectile player, Monster Widow. He's going to be the one to get him there in that match. The next match, we have the Dallas Fuel versus the San Francisco Shock. I have the Dallas Fuel winning this, and I think their main tank play with OGE is going to be a big part of how they're going to win. Him being consistent, him making good plays, him communicating well with the rest of the team, I think is really important. We saw him play better at the end of last season, and we saw the Dallas Fuel improve greatly. So I think OGE is going to be a big part of that, and the Dallas Fuel are going to win their matches. Moving on to the last match of the day, we have the Charge versus the Hunters. I think the Charge are going to win this. I think they're the better team. I think the Hunters is one of the weaker of the new teams coming into the league. I think the Charge are going to win this one, and I think Hapa, who's already got some experience on the pro level, is going to be the one to majorly influence that match. Alright, moving on to day 3 of opening week. First match of the day is going to be the Paris Eternal versus London Spitfire. I'm super excited to see the Paris Eternal play, and especially to see Soon once again on the main stage and see him with this new roster. Match 2 is New York Excelsior versus Washington Justice. We get to see another one of the new teams in action. Should be great. Match 3, we have the Spark versus the LA Valiant. I'm curious to see how the LA Valiant respond to losing Soon in that damage role. And then our last match of the day, we have the Dragons versus the Titans. I think it's going to be another great match, and I'm excited to see the Titans play. Alright, so moving on to day 3's picks, I've got the London Spitfire winning their match against the Paris Eternal. I think the London Spitfire are just a better team right now. Paris is going to be a very good team, I think, before the season's over, but the London Spitfire are going to be better out of the gate, and I think Gesture's main tank play is going to be absolutely pivotal for them to actually win that match. Match 2 of the day, I have the New York Excelsior beating the Washington Justice. I think once again, of course, Jonak is going to make some great plays. He's going to be a big part of that victory. Third match of the day, the LA Valiant versus the Spark. I think the Valiant are going to win this, and I think we're going to see Agilities take on that bigger damage role. It's going to be really important for him to pick up the slack of them losing Soon, and I think he can do it. The final match of the day, you see the Titans playing for the first time in Season 2 against the Dragons. While I think the Dragons are a much better team than they were last season, this Titans team is really, really good. They're going to take the win, and I think Haxel is going to make some big picks. He's going to be really important, and I think the Titans are going to be the Dragons in the last match of the day. Alright, moving on to the final day of opening week, we have the Houston Outlaws going up against the Boston Uprising in our first match of the day. The Philadelphia Fusion meeting up with the Atlanta Reign in match 2. Match 3, the San Francisco Shock versus the LA Gladiators. And match 4 being the Seoul Dynasty versus the Dallas Fuel. Alright, moving on to my picks for day 4. I have the Houston Outlaws beating the Boston Uprising. I think it's just a much better roster right now. The Boston Uprising have a lot to prove, and I think Muma is going to be very important on that tank line. I think he's a more experienced tank at the pro level, and I think he's going to be able to win out. I have the Philadelphia Fusion beating the Atlanta Reign. A big part of that is going to be Carpe and his play. If he's hitting shots, he's being consistent, they're going to win. I have the LA Gladiators beating the San Francisco Shock. I think they're a better roster right now. Even with losing Fisher, they were able to replace Fisher with Roar, and I think Roar is going to really play well. And then the last match, I've got the Seoul Dynasty beating the Dallas Fuel. If Flutta is being consistent, which he had some issues with that last season, he should play really well, and I think they're going to win. I think with the addition of Fisher as their main tank, it's going to help Flutta be able to have some more space and have some more freedom to be able to hit those shots and hit them consistently. So there you have it. All of Week 1's schedules, all of my picks, my opinions, there they are. Once again, as always, in the comment section below, let me know how you feel about my picks. Let me know if you agree or disagree. Tell me why. It's been great. I'm so excited to have Overwatch League back. I will be watching every single one of these matches, acting like a total fanboy, and I cannot wait. As always, this has been Sai, and I hope you have enjoyed the overreaction.